Mr. Dave Mann, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. I'm good, thanks. It's nice to have you joining us here from sunny, subtropical Colorado.
Yeah, it's a little rainy and dreary here today, but we're moving into spring.
You know what I've learned about the world, Dave, is that everybody's trying to make it to Colorado.
I think those are intelligent people that think that way. It's been a wonderful move for us.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place, isn't it?
Yeah,
Hey, Dave, I have a question for you.
sure.
Who the heck are you? And why would you be speaking to a group of construction professionals all around the world?
Well, first of all, like a lot of people, it's fun to be listened to. So I appreciate that you're interested in what I have to say.
Sure.
At 51 years old and 26 years into the construction industry, I've made quite a few mistakes, and I feel like
Hmm.
that I can help potentially one or two other folks out there trying to avoid some of the pitfalls I've experienced. And if I can help somebody, I guess that feels great because so many people have helped me along the way.
Wonderful. Well, mistakes is what our show's about, so you're in good hands here.
Oh, excellent. I'm in the right place.
What kind of construction do you do?
We're general contractors for the last probably 12 years.
Hmm.
Before that, we were solely roofing and solar contractors in Southern California. And, we're hit really hard in the downturn, 2008, 9, 10.
Right.
Again, made, as many mistakes as I feel like one could make, somehow survived and kept that boat afloat. And in 2013, we had just enough good sense to sell the assets to that business, relocate to Colorado from San
Okay.
Diego,
Right.
and restart a construction business here that primarily focuses on general contracting remodels and smaller TIs. And then there's a leg of our business that works for national companies on roofing inspections, exterior inspections,
Oh,
and then
really?
corresponding work that comes with that. So companies like Open Door and Zillow, Redfin, Pathlight. So that's turned out to be a really nice revenue channel for us.
Oh, interesting. So an interesting specialty because you used to do roofing and solar in California. Now you're doing roofing and specialty roofing in Colorado. So you dropped the solar part?
Yeah, we did. Solar is a mathematical equation that if it doesn't pencil, it's not as attractive to the end user. And because the roofing side of our business is primarily B2B and no longer B2C,
Ah,
there's less of a driver for that, especially in Colorado where we have so much sun and the cost of electricity is so low.
right. And if there's no state incentives to drive the cost down or to assist in the offset, it doesn't make sense sometimes.
Right, and I think that's mainly driven on the federal rebate programs through income tax and the opportunity to receive credits. I'm not as familiar anymore with that, but at one time that was a huge driver, and the
Yeah.
cost of solar has gotten so much less that it just mathematically doesn't make as much sense. Although I totally agree with the product, I think it's a wonderful product.
Mm. One of the things that you said right now that's got me wondering about how we can add the most value to our listeners is the reinvention side. I mean, the topic you and I agreed on is I'm too nice and it hurts because you're a good guy. I can see from the
Yeah,
smile on your face, you're like a pretty genuine guy. And you and I, by the way, for our listeners, you and I have never met face to face, but we know each other through some business groups that we've been in and mutual acquaintances, and that's how I got to ask you to be on the show, right?
right. Probably like you, I was looking for opportunities to improve, my ability to run a business and found, EO as an organization and got involved there and surrounded myself with like-minded entrepreneurs. And really that's where a lot of the reinvention actually started.
Yeah. Well, so that's where I was going with this is you reinvented yourself. Just before we get to the I'm too nice and it hurts part, what's that reinvention look like? And specifically, I've done it myself. I've built and sold two companies and a lot of other, failed projects along the way that maybe didn't even qualify to be a
Sure.
company before they just died. But
Sure.
those
Yeah.
conversations at the kitchen table can be tough.
Yeah, I would say that part of my reinvention was driven by the downturn in 2008, 9, 10. And I suppose looking back, I was probably operating from the perspective of, a house of cards, if you will. I had a business that looked good on the outside, and we had plenty of nice trucks and lots of employees and big overhead, and of course we were living a nice lifestyle. But the business, culturally and strategically just didn't have much backbone to it. And I think that's probably part of I made a lot of decisions off of thinking I was being a nice guy and helping people and helping customers and helping employees. And in the end, when the downturn kicked in, we didn't have much runway.
Wow. What, as much as you could share, what were some of the flags that went up to say, I'm being too nice and it's biting me in the butt?
I never had a good handle on operations. And so we would continually hire and rehire or re-strategize that part of our company. At the end of the day, I was a decent sales and marketing guy, and we built a big business through sales and marketing with not a lot of attention paid to the operations side. And so it was probably a situation where if it was out of sight, out of mind for me, I would just let it go. And so if I had an operations person that wanted to run it his or her way, I didn't get in their way, and I didn't manage that person. I didn't lead that person. Yeah.
It's interesting that you talk about culture and the reason I say that is because I talk about culture and values here on the show. And a lot of people think I'm talking about unicorns and rainbows and, cartoon land. But it sounds like you've come to the same place as I have, which is the culture is actually the glue that holds the company together. Sorry, I don't want to put words in your mouth. What do you think about, enough about me, what do you think about me? What's your thoughts on culture?
I would say that, now doing what I do and the model that we've created, I was more interested in building a brand, probably for ego's sake. And I think that feeling probably permeated our particular culture. We had really nice trucks and we had great logos and great uniforms. And, I remember thinking that, for those that know the Nordstrom brand, I remember thinking we're going to put a spin on the construction business and the roofing business specifically that has the Nordstrom type culture. And it sounded good on paper, but as a guy that didn't come from construction, that, essentially was a salesman straight out of college and, built this business kind of on a wing and a prayer, that was not probably the best way to go about it, especially with the type of folks that we were hiring and the type of folks that we were working for. They weren't necessarily folks familiar with that type of a brand. And so at the end of the day, people want good work at a good price as completed as quickly as possible. Right. And so looking back now, it's more of a no frills model for us now. Open communication is something that, that my ego probably limited me on early on. And now I'm, transparency, vulnerability, all those great things we've learned along the way have become more of the hallmarks of the way we operate our current model.
When you say, so that's very interesting. And you made people's ears perk up. When a dog hears a funny sound and it turns its head, what?
Yeah.
What transparency and vulnerability as a business owner? What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, if you want to go down a rabbit hole with me, that has been the two, biggest changes in my life, both personally and business. And it's worked so well for me as a human that I've just decided that's the only way I can personally operate. And that's through a lot of years of, being in organizations like EO. I was at Vistage or Tech for years. I've certainly had my share of, personal support on the family side, and whether it's through your wife or your spouse or your children or your parents, therapy, spirituality, whatever road. And in fact, in my case, I give so much credence to Warren Rustan, who I know is a name you probably know.
I do, yes. Yeah.
But Warren really, Warren changed our lives for the better. And we can't give enough credence to his values and what he helped to implement for our lives. But yeah, I would say that the transparency and vulnerability piece for me was really just getting honest with myself of what kind of business owner do you want to be? Are you really about ego and nice trucks and uniforms, or are you about running a business that has profitability and that can help support the life that you're looking for?
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that, because I think I've come to many of those same conclusions myself. I've had a couple of businesses that, if you look at it from the outside, they did great. The revenue numbers are astronomical, one of them in the hundreds of millions. But now I'm chasing profit.
Yeah.
I'd rather make $1 and take home 99 cents than make $1,000 and try to take home $1, because that's the business model that so many people chase. It's too hard to work that way.
And I've thought about this a lot. I don't know how this, momentum gets, implemented in our brain waves, but for some reason, it was a race to see who could build the biggest company from a top line revenue perspective. And none of my network ever talked about bottom line.
Yeah.
I would see the smaller guys and the lifestyle businesses making tons of money, having a lot less pressure. Yeah. And at some point it kicked in of, do we really need all these trucks, and do we really need all this marketing, and do we need this office space and warehouse space, and how do you really want to build this business? And at the end of the day, it became about profits, mainly because of survival. I wasn't going to make it if I didn't make a change. Right. And in fact, we were very close to not making it, and turning that ship around was painful. But at the end of the day, it worked, and now we're in a much better place.
Yeah. Are you still so nice that it hurts?
I would say that I think that I want to be nice. I think that I hope that I'm perceived as nice, but I'm much more about the math, and I'm much more about making sure that these jobs are operated profitably. And if they're not, we have quick conversations, again, transparency and vulnerability of, not being afraid to approach either, subcontractors or partners or customers. Hey, we've got a problem financially here, and we got to talk about it and work it out so that everybody feels good.
Right. And so that's the vulnerability side is and I think this is a Warren Renstad thing too, is I'm going to translate one of the things that I learned from him is to have enough ego that it seems like you have none.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Right? I love it.
Right. To have enough ego that it looks like you don't have any ego at all. And I'm the first one to say, look, I don't know the right answer to this question, but you guys are all smart on this crew. All you guys that are on the roof with, with the harnesses on, with the PPE on, what do you guys think? Well, how come you don't know? Because I don't know. I'm not on the roof.
Right.
Let's come up with some great ideas right now. And there's nobody I don't think anybody looks at me sideways afterwards and says, that Dom's a real dum-dum. Now they might say it, but I don't actually hear it.
Sure.
They probably say it.
I feel like we're in a unique industry in that the folks that we're working with on a daily basis that are actually implementing this good work that we're all striving for, they're less familiar and less concerned with the thought processes or the conversations you and I are having. They're really focused on getting their work done, doing a good job, and of course being compensated for it. And so understanding those triggers with with each of the folks that we partner with has been important too, to understand each of these companies, subcontractors well enough to manage and lead them in a way that works for them and works for us.
What's the part that makes it hurt about being nice? I'm trying to come back to the topic that you and I first sussed out.
Yeah, I feel like that for whatever reason, my mentality or my own personal, culture and vision probably was enabling, not only to myself, but to others. Of hey, we're all in this together, and so hey, I made a mistake here, so help me out, and then I'll help you out, and we're partners. And I'm not sure the world works like that. I'm not sure I would counsel I haven't counseled my kids to operate that way. That certainly not to be a pessimist. That I still feel like that optimism is key to leadership and to the way we operate. However, we need to take care of our vision. We need to manage our vision. We need to lead from the perspective of what's good for our company and our partners and our customers. And sometimes those aren't aligned with others, whether it's distribution or who we're working for, or who we're buying from. And so I know that there's that adage that the customer is key, and we have to, or customer's king rather, and we have to cater to those needs. I'd probably challenge that to say, again, constant communication, setting expectations for our customers and our partners and our subcontractors and our vendors. That's going to be less of the being nice for the sake of enabling, and more
Right.
being nice for the sake of leading a good project.
Yeah. I wonder if you're similar to me in this, but if there's bad news, I'd rather hear it fast. I don't want to hear it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I want to hear it now. And I want all solutions on the table. I don't expect you to have the answers to bad news. If there's a problem, let's figure out the solution to the problem's just a problem. That's all it is.
Yeah.
But we've got to solve it. And sometimes people will hide change orders or bury it thinking, oh, it's just a little thing. I'll do this. But they start to look back and go, oh my God, we ate a ton of change orders. And since I buried the first one, and since we ate the second one, since we ignored the third one, I can't really go back and tell them about the fourth one. But the total change order, the size of the change order now is big, and I can't run my company. I can't pay my guys. I can't buy a new truck. I can't come back and do the punch list. And it all comes because I didn't talk about the first change order.
And I love it, because I think change orders, is an entire topic on its own, because if ever there's an area in our industry where, feathers get ruffled, it's the change order conversation. And the conversation we have, the conversation we're having in the beginning is, hey, we are in the honeymoon. You love us. We love you. This project is just getting started. We've all agreed on the price and the contract. Now let's talk about what can go wrong moving forward. And we do our best to talk about change orders in advance. And we have customers on a regular basis that conveniently forget those conversations. So we've actually added language to our contracts regarding change orders and limitations or lack thereof, and trying to continue to remind them of, in the beginning, we talked about this as an issue for you. And I still haven't solved it, but boy, we're a lot better at it today than we were in the past.
Yeah. I suppose as a general contractor and doing roofing, are you doing re-roofs? And my question is, are you tearing off existing structure to build on or add to? Do you find yourself doing that?
So it's a two-part answer. So we do general contracting for everything, that you just discussed. On the roofing side of things, we're really siloed into the type of product that our customers are buying. So again, we're doing inspections for these national brands, and they tend to buy the same profile of a single family residence over and over and over again.
Oh, okay.
Now we also do multifamily commercial type roofing as well in the new construction area. So the answer is, we do everything you just described. We will do, and we will perform. And we have vast experience in roofing. To this day, that's still obviously a big bread and butter piece of our company.
Sure. Yeah. The reason I asked that question though is because sometimes site conditions, I don't know if your wall has rot or if it wasn't built right in the first place, or if there's poor ventilation until I open the wall, until I see it, until we can see it. And that leads to change orders sometimes when we think the pre-existing condition was X, but it's actually X minus something.
Yeah. And I'll tell you again, more communication is always better. Setting expectations for the customer is always better. And then building trust. If you're just doing one job for somebody, they trust you as well as the job can go. But if you do multiple jobs for the same client, that trust gets built in. So pretty soon it's not a question. They understand what's about to happen. They're ready for it. They understand your pricing model. And so it's nice to be at a place like that now, where we do have that built-in trust based on a track record of performance.
You just made me think of something that's kind of timely. Looking at just the way the world is right now, and for instance, the price of a 2x4 or a sheet of plywood. 2x4s have gone up 3 times. Plywood's gone up maybe 4 times, depending on if you're getting T&G or just standard sheathing. But
it's unbelievable.
How are you dealing with that when you're, are you too nice about that? And are you eating that $120 sheet of plywood, or that $10 2x4?
No.
What are you doing there?
No, so we bid based on, historical data. And so this last year has been really interesting because it's hard to use a job from, 2019 to bid in 2020 and, and so on and so forth for 2021.
Well, on the
So
material
the
side, though,
answer
right?
to,
The labor, like the doing of the do is still kind of the same, but it's the
yeah,
materials that have just gone wonky.
yeah. Right. So we've added language to all of our contracts that say we can't price protect anything regarding materials. And as a matter of fact,
So
we just
simple.
bid a rather large job yesterday where not only did we put all the language in 12-point type in bold in italics within the contract, we added it to the language in the email that said, if we do proceed on this job, we will sign a preliminary agreement to proceed. And in that agreement, here are the notes. And the notes are, there will be no price protection on this job. Here's the range that you can expect based on the forecast. But more communication, setting expectations, having the conversations up front, building that rapport with your customer that they're ready for the hard conversations regarding price increases on materials.
I think you nailed something really important there, Dave, is that hard conversation is easier to actually have up front than it is to have,
Yeah.
especially after you've done all the work, the labor's been had, the last screw has gone in, the last shingle has gone on, and now having the tough conversation, actually you've allowed the power to go back in the other person's hand instead of yourself at the front saying, hey, we've got an issue here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an age-old challenge that I talk about with other, contractors and folks in our network. And I think we all face it. And the most success we've had around it is just managing expectations. So the more we can chat about it, the more we can talk about it with a customer and end user, we just find to have an easier path to success.
So many different directions I could take this conversation in with you. It's fascinating to hear your take on these things. And I think you are what I want people on this show to see as the potential, which is be a business person who happens to run a construction company, not just a contractor with a crew.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I've always understood that. I've never pretended to understand how to install any of the things that we do. I've obviously become pretty savvy over the years just from learning and experience. Yeah. And so I would say that the folks that come, that hang up the bags to go into business, have maybe a little tougher path. And while I've known lots of folks that have had a lot of success that way, we have seen, those that just couldn't make it and end up getting back into the trades. So for me, I feel very fortunate that, it's been 26 years now of lots of learning from hard knocks, but really being focused on how do we run this business effectively. And as a result, I think we've built a good reputation, a good referral base as well.
You've got a couple of kids, right? How old are they?
So we have a 23-year-old and a 17-year-old, two daughters. One's just graduated from college and is in her first job in Southern California. And one is a junior in high school and is practicing her career in rodeo currently and looking for a future there.
Gee, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's great. We love it.
So I want to, is that why you moved to Colorado, for the horsey lifestyle?
Yeah, part and parcel. I grew up that way, and it's hard to own horses and rodeo in San Diego County, and so we found a niche here in central Colorado, in a little small horse town, and so yeah, it's definitely accessible here, much easier.
Cool. The reason I asked about kids is because I want to take you forward in time. It's I don't like to date stamp these episodes because this is evergreen information. It's going to be just as relevant today as if we were talking about building Roman aqueducts or pyramids in Egypt. Contractor's a contractor, right? The same things happen. We just talked about different tools. But if we take you forward, I don't want to freak you out since your daughters are a little bit older, but let's say we take you forward 30 years. You're a grandfather. And you're talking to one of your grandkids about how you reinvented yourself from California to Colorado. And, you're talking to your grandchild, you're going to summarize the story. What did I learn? And what do I want to say to my grandchild? What do you think that would be? It's going to be the year 2050 at that point, and you'll be 30 years, whatever added to what you are now.
Yeah, so I'll be 81. Thank you. And
Sorry, man, I had to do it.
No, it's great. It's great. I'll be happy to be 81. Here's what popped into my mind as you were asking the question. Uh, there was a saying that somebody taught me along the way, which was, remember the men who dug the well from which we drink the water.
Whoa.
And how that's
Goosebumps.
always struck me is this is, yeah, no, yeah, it's a legacy conversation. And there's been so many mentors in all of our lives, but I'll just talk about mine, that for right, wrong, or indifferent, you learn from. You learn who you don't want to be. You learn who you want to be. You learn who you want to align yourselves with. And the key to my reinvention goes back to when we met Warren Rustan. And so I would say that, having mentors, having solid mentors and people that you can look to, who you can drop your guard and you can have those transparent and vulnerable conversations, and you can become strategic, and you can, and this is Warren also, you can design your life in the way that you want to live it. Yeah. That's the key. Figure out exactly who you want to be and how you want to be and how you want to operate, and start taking the necessary steps to go and do that. And we have, it is way simpler than we ever thought. We thought there was some silver bullet along the way that we were going to find that was going to lead us to the promised land. And it just wasn't the case.
Just
it was
be
roll
yourself
up your sleeves.
Ferociously.
Yep.
Just be yourself
Yep.
ferociously.
Yep.
Yeah. Be a good person.
And go to
My
work.
translation is be a good person. Other people might have an angrier view on life, and that would be an aggressive thing, but this is going to sound very, fruity and in the clouds, but be your best self. Like, honestly, be the best thing you could have been when you got to live this life on earth. And so interesting. Can you say that quote again? Because that gave me goosebumps. Remember the men.
Yes. Remember the men who dug the well from which we drink the water.
So that being said, do you think you're the turning point for the Mann family legacy?
At the risk of, I guess, letting the ego kick in, I feel like my wife and I together have been the turning point in our family tree. Nice. We talk a lot about breaking the cycle. We had, like a lot of folks, we had parents and family and blood relative mentors that maybe didn't operate at the level that we were seeking to operate at. And so, as we all know, some of our best lessons come from, watching folks that we don't want to repeat their behavior. And so in our particular case, Jody and I have worked really hard to do our best to create an environment that we all can, be loving and kind and also successful in whatever our endeavors are. And so I feel like that the kids will be better versions of us. I'm confident of that.
Yeah. So that's cool. And hopefully one day one of your grandkids listens to this show and it's like, hey, that's grandpa back in the 2020s or whatever we call this era when we look back on it.
Yeah. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, I want to make sure that when people look back, I don't really care that I'm a legacy, but I want them to remember a couple of things. And I know you didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you what I want my grandkids to say to my grandkids is that it's all about attitude. I don't care if they want to be the greatest quilter in the world.
Yeah,
just have the right attitude. Be an attitude that everybody else looks at and says, well, that's the right attitude. Maybe I'm going to try that on for my life.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I'm with you. And I agree with you 100%. I think that's all we have, right? Is how we show up every day.
Yeah. Yeah. So interesting. And you came from a dairy background. So hard work has been in your veins no matter what. It's just what you know. You've applied it here to construction. You reinvented yourself into Colorado, which, as I said, is where everybody wants to get to eventually. What does the future look like for Dave Mann?
Yeah, we've recently been fortunate enough to reinvest some real estate investments in California into Colorado. And we're very excited about the multifamily and apartment space. Obviously, to your point, folks want to live here. Folks need places to stay. Affordability is an issue. Yeah. And the multifamily space is growing. I have a cousin who I'm really close to, who's a general contractor building multifamily at a pretty steady pace, and we're involved with portions of his projects, and we're looking to invest in our own projects as well. And so we think the real estate development side, or just the real estate investment side on multifamily, has a huge future here, and we're really excited about that.
Yeah. Are you is passive cash flow, I'll call it passive cash flow, part of the plan?
Yeah, it's yes, it is. And it's so cool that you just brought that up, because I instantly remembered a roofing contractor who was really successful in San Diego. And I probably met him 20 years ago. And I remember him telling me, you're not going to get rich as a roofer, but if you cash flow correctly and you invest in real estate, you can have a nice lifestyle. And I never forgot that. And so we've bought and held the first 3 houses in San Diego County that we purchased, and we're just now starting to sell and reinvest those in Colorado.
Good for you.
So that was great counsel. Great counsel. Yeah, that worked out. It's working out nicely.
Yeah. Well, and I remind people on the show here, and I know everybody's in a different situation and every real estate market is different, but I beg and plead my listeners, please buy your shop, buy your real estate. And my old Italian uncle, and all my uncles are old and Italian, turns out, but they came over with nothing. My family came over as bicycle mechanics and laborers, right? Nothing. There was no royalty that got sent away.
Sure.
But they invested like mad in real estate with the money that they made, the pennies that they made, that just scraped together. And so, anyways, my uncle has a saying. He says, the most expensive day you'll have in a house is when you rent it, and that will be every day. But if you buy that house, every day you pay it off, it gets cheaper. And he said that in Italian, so that's why it didn't come out as a very fluid translation.
No, it resonates.
It's always have somebody else pay that off. And if you own your space or your warehouse or some land, other people will pay that for you,
Yep.
Yeah.
Completely agree. And that model has been proven over and over again by folks certainly smarter than me. So who am I to challenge it? We're just trying to get our piece of the pie. And I think, and I'll say this, I think contracting is a wonderful industry. I think, for those of us that have a hard time focusing on, what it takes to become a doctor, a lawyer, a banker, an investment guy, it's a creative business, and it's a business that gets you outside, and you can design your business to, be outside and still run a successful business. And I spend a lot of time on job sites and in the car, driving from project to project, meeting with people, and it's very social, and chatting with our partners and our subcontractors and our vendors. And so I highly encourage people to get into the trades and to become business owners in the construction industry.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Dave, it sounds like we might have to have you back one day in the future. You and I can go down 1,000 paths. Yeah, thank you. Hey, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, maybe they're doing something similar to you, or you've piqued some interest, are you open to having people contact you?
Absolutely.
Well, how would they do that, Dave?
Yeah, so the easiest way is my email address is dave@wearepatriot.com. Our company is Patriot Constructors, and you can call me directly on my cell phone at 858-353-1253.
Very nice. That's a direct line right into the wisdom channel.
Certainly the school of hard knocks. I'd love to share my experiences if people want to listen.
Yeah. Hey, Dave, thank you so much for being on the show and speaking to all these contractors. It's I'm very pleased with what we've done on the show, because the people that are all facing forward in their lives and their business listen to this show, and I think you've added a ton today. I'm just so happy. Thank you.
It's very nice of you to say. I really appreciate being here.
All right, Dave. Have a great day. We'll talk to you again soon.
You as well. Thanks, Tom.